I'm going to tell you a story today, and it's a story about, first off, the first thing, we'll get it get out of the way. I'm probably going to cry tonight, and probably going to cry often. So that part's over. 6 Minutes Wrestling with Life is a story about my life over the last 4 years' time. It's two things happening at once, and how I dealt with it, and how wrestling has helped me get through it, and how wrestling has impacted my life for so much of an unbelievable amount that I can't even possibly tell you, but I'll try to express that to you tonight. The first part of 6 minutes is 4 years ago, my daughter had a seizure and lost oxygen to her brain for 6 minutes. And we've been taking care of her and trying to get her better since that period of time. And the second part of the 6 minutes is, as you know, is a wrestling match in 6 minutes. And before that happened, you have dreams, you have goals, you have everything that you want to put into action. And very selfishly, wrestling-wise, 6 matches, you want to win a state championship. You know, everything that you do, every day you work for 6 years, goes towards winning a state championship. So when my daughter lost oxygen to her brain for 6 minutes, I had a choice to make. And that choice was, do you concentrate on solely taking care of her, and in the interim, give up everything else that you have lived for? You have 3 other children. So if you concentrate solely on getting them better, the other 3 children will obviously not have a quality of life. Or do you concentrate on your 3 children and ignore the person who needs your help the most? Well, that choice that I made was not neither one or the other, but it was both. And the only way I was able to make that choice was through wrestling. Because everything that I did in my wrestling career made me realize one thing: you always choose the hardest option. And the hardest option was to do both. And so to me, when Mav won the state title, yeah, that was great, but it was the fact that I did both. And that's what the story is about, is your ability to do both. You're able to do so much more than you think you can do. And when you concentrate, and when you focus, and you have the right discipline and the right principles in your life, you're able to do so much more than you could ever imagine doing. And I account that to wrestling. And I'll go over that here. Now, I wrote this book totally against my wife's wishes. There's only 1 or 2 things in my life I've done and disregard her wishes, and this was one of them. I just felt it was that important, and I had to get my feelings out, and it's the only way I can express myself. And the book that I wrote is very personal. It's very moving. It's very graphic, but it's real. And what I basically came to the conclusion is you have a choice. You can beat life, or life can beat you. And I'll tell you a little story about this, then I'll get into the actual speech. About 4 or 5 years ago, and we were at a Tournament of Champions with Maverick and Travis. And if anyone went to the Ohio Tournament of Champions, they realize how tough of a tournament that is. It is probably one of the best tournaments for a youth wrestler, and we have many people in this crowd have gone there, and I've had the enjoyment of going with many of you guys here. But when you're sitting in your hotel room, and it's the night before the brackets come out, and you have done so much work in order to prepare yourself, and you look online, and you look at the brackets, and you realize you got the #1 seed who basically won the tournament 4 years in a row. So, as much as you believe, and you think you believe, there's that little doubt in your mind that said, man, I got a bad draw, you know? But you don't think that. So Travis basically was getting that situation. He had to wrestle Corey Ozzy his first match. Now, Corey Ozius was a 4-time Ohio State champion, and, you know, he's ready to go, but you can see the little doubt starting in his mind. So we are getting ready in the morning to go to the tournament. We had to take showers. I took my shower. Maverick takes his shower. And when Travis gets into his shower, up on the shower is Passaro, Ozius, and the winner, Passaro. Now, when you think right, and you don't think about your doubts, and you don't think about what ifs, how good this person is, now you start concentrating on, I deserve this. I've done this right. I've done everything I possibly can do. So this here, to me, is the exact same thing. Every single day you get up, you have an opportunity to think about your doubts, think about how hard things are going to be, think about what the opponents are going to be, or you can say to yourself, you know what, I got this. No big deal. Now, Travis did not win that match, but the important part is sometimes life is your opponent and just showing up is a victory. And when you do everything right, sometimes you don't realize that what you think your goal is and what you think your reward is going to be is not actually your reward. So you have no idea about that at the time. Okay? When I was talking to my daughter for the last time before she got sick, we had a long conversation, and the brunt of the conversation came down to two things. We were talking, and she was basically talking about our personalities, and I basically said to her, Jess, there's only two things that I know. Because I'm a fighter, and I know how to win. And that's basically the wrestling that's inbred in you. Okay? So any situation comes in, I know I'm going to give it a fight. Okay? And I know I'm going to do everything I possibly can to figure out how to win. So when you're wrestling, and you're wrestling an opponent that's much better than you, okay, you can't fool yourself. You know that. You still got to figure out a way to win. Everyone's beatable. So what you got to do is you got to be on your own team. You can't be on the other person's team. The other person's team saying, you know what, I'm better than you. Okay, I'm going to beat you. If you take the other side, you might as well be on their team. Your team basically says, how do I win? What do? I can be faster, stronger. If he's faster, stronger, and more athletic, and he has more experience, you still got to find a way to win. And you know what? And sometimes in life, you're going to be up against an opponent that's bigger than you. Okay, something that is much bigger than you. You still got to fight. Still got to fight, and you still got to find a way to win. And I've coached for the better part of my adult career. I've coached 1,000 baseball games, and I've brought my kids to virtually every tournament under the sun in wrestling. Okay? All the time that I was doing this, I was trying to teach them life lessons. I was trying to show them exactly what they need to do and what they need to pull out of life. Little did I know, it was for me. It wasn't for them, it was for me. Okay? So, in everything that you lose, every loss, there's a lesson. And when you lose, you've got to figure out what that lesson is. What made you lose? What you need to do better? And when you learn that, that's not a loss. That's just a learn. It's either a win or a learn. So there is no such thing as losing if you learn from it. So when you're up against something bigger than you, or you're facing an opponent that's bigger than you, or you go out there and you don't win a match, there's a reason for that. There's something bigger that loss is going to teach you that you're going to need later on in life, or later on in the season. You lose the first match the regular season, and all of a sudden, I guarantee you, somewhere along the line, if you make that correction, that's going to come up again. So if you adjust and you learn from that, that first thing wasn't a loss, it was a gift. And that's exactly the way you have to look at things. And every single lesson that you learn, and when you put all these lessons together, and you go through everything, you go through every single tournament, every single situation, and you lose. I tell people, kids all the time, you're not a wrestler, so you lose 100 matches. Okay? Because if you have the fortitude to lose 100 matches, that means you got what it takes to keep going. You got what it takes to keep wrestling. And if you lose 100 matches, there's going to be 100 lessons in there. And you need to learn every single one of those lessons in order to become a great wrestler. And the exact same thing is in life. You know, when something goes wrong, it's not the fact that it's a loss. You know, it may not be what you want at the time, but there's something in there that you have to pull out. All right, I'm going to talk about myself for one slide, that's it. But 30 years ago, all right, I was a fanatic. I was a crazy, lunatic, dedicated, absolutely insane wrestler. I shaved my head, I didn't eat, I wouldn't take Holy Communion because I couldn't make weight. I starved myself, I did everything possible, okay? I wanted to be a state champion, I would do anything for it, okay? As you can tell, on the bottom, I was a league champion, okay? So, for many years, I hated wrestling, all right? You couldn't come near me, okay? After I graduated high school, okay? I couldn't figure out that after I graduated, I got nothing out of my 6 years of wrestling, okay? The total dedication to the sport, that the trade-off of what I got from the sport and what I gave to the sport was just absolutely insane. I hated it. There's no possible way that what I did, every single person in this room, somewhere in their life, is going to have something to happen to them where they wish it didn't happen to them. And how you deal with that is going to dictate the quality of your life. Okay? You could be happy in any situation. You don't have to be happy about the situation. Okay? But you can be happy in any situation. So how you deal with that adversity is going to be a major thing. You know, and as I said before, the reward that you seek may not be the reward that you get. I sought a New York State Championship. It's not what I got. I got so much more. Okay? Wrestling rewarded me with a bigger prize other than standing on a podium for a few seconds. Okay? It inbred in me a way to live life. It's a belief system. Okay? How to deal with things when something happens. Okay? Life is going to throw you to your back. Okay? You can get pinned and go away, or you fight like heck to get off your back, get up, get off your back, score enough points, and win the match. Okay? Everyone's going to be thrown to the back. Everyone. Okay? And when it happens, you find out who you are. Okay? So when you're in a meaningless match, and you're down by 10 points, and there's 20 seconds left, and the guy throws you to your back, if you give up there, you're going to give up somewhere else. So what are you fighting for? There's 20 seconds left. There's no way possible you can win this match. Well, you're fighting for your next match, and the match after that. And the feeling that you know that you gave everything that you had, and you will never, ever, ever be broken. Ever. Okay? Exactly like I said, I look back at my wrestling career, and the thing is, you can't know at the time that you're not going to win, okay? Or that is not going to be the reward at the time. But when you're doing it, obviously it is your reward. But in my particular case, it wasn't, okay? Actually, that's my reward right there. Four years ago, I'm sitting on my couch watching a movie. Yeah, it's a chick flick called Serendipity. All right? I just like the name of the word. And it basically means the fortune of finding something of value when you're not looking for it. Okay? My daughter comes home from work. She jumps up the stairs, runs up the stairs. I ask her if she wants to watch a movie with us. She says, no, I'm just going to go to sleep for a while. She gets upstairs. 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, we hear a noise. Now I do what any normal person does when they hear a noise in the house. They stop, listen for a second noise. It doesn't come. Everything should be all right. Just don't have a good feeling. Go outside, see if the car's being robbed. Nothing there. No home invasion happening. We're fine. Everything seems fine. Sit back down, watch a movie. You get the second noise. Second noise comes, and immediately you realize something's wrong. The first noise was my daughter having a seizure and falling into her closet door. The second noise took a little while because the closet door stood on its hinges for about 2 minutes, and then slid down and hit the floor. So what I do, you go into total action mode. You know, I run upstairs, I see my daughter is in a situation where her eyes are rolling back in her head and she needs help. So I do what any wrestler would do. I put her in a fireman's carry, I carry her down the stairs. I get halfway down the stairs and I feel that her body just feels different. So I lay her down and she has stopped breathing. So at that point, I don't know CPR, but I perform CPR, do it for as long as I feel is necessary. It seemed like forever. And at that time, I get a tap on my shoulder, and the EMTs are there, and they take over. I walk outside. They bring her back to put oxygen on her. She seems fine. It seems like a major tragedy has been averted, and we head towards the hospital. By the time we get to the hospital, everything seems just like it was a near miss. We get there, they bring her into a room, nobody's scurrying around, nobody's running around, everything seems normal, just looking to take care of her. 5, 6 doctors in the room, 5, 6 nurses in the room, everything seems fine. 1 doctor leaves, 2 doctors leaves, 4 doctors leave, 4 nurses leave, 1 person's left in the room, and my daughter is violently shaken on the bed. At that point, I look up, and if you ever realize nurses in hospitals, they're not the most affectionate people in the world. They learn to be callous, no emotions, no feelings, but the one I have is crying. And I see the look on her face. The doctors rush back in. They pull the curtains. 1 minute goes by. 2 minutes go by. 3 minutes go by. If you ever wrestled, you know how long a period is. You know how long 2 minutes are. You know how long 4 minutes are. You know how long 6 minutes are. At that point, I get to the point and I say, 6 minutes. I know math, I know brains, I know what happens. Doctors are walking out, and I just say, just don't say it. Instead, they tell me, bring me to the side and say, we have put your daughter into a medically induced coma to save her. I'm thinking I just hit the grand slam. I'll take that. 2 seconds ago, I thought she was dead. I'll take that. Unfortunately, a couple minutes later, they talk to me and say, do you remember Karen Ann Quinlan? And of course I did. They wanted me to talk to me about giving up. There's nothing you can do. It's over. Well, they also said the world was flat. They're wrong. When you're wrestling, and if you thought about the odds of winning a state championship, you would never start. There's about 400 schools in New York State. One person at the end of it will get his hand raised. You got a 1 in 400 shot. Why are you even trying? Well, that's for everyone else. You ignore the odds. The odds are for other people. The odds aren't for you. You do everything right. You work hard. You put the time in. You believe. Those odds don't now get reduced greatly. The definition of don't give up is never. It doesn't mean when things are tough. It Doesn't mean when things are bad, when things aren't going your way, when the odds are less than 1%. Definition is never, under any circumstances. So when you're in a situation where, in that same situation where you're about to be pinned, and there's 20 seconds left, it doesn't mean you give up there. Never. You never give up. Under any circumstances ever, at any point, you fight. And that's what wrestling's about. You fight. Of course, inside of you, there's two different wolves, okay? When something happens like that, and your odds are virtually 0 or 1% or 2%, okay? Now, everyone knows the story of the two wolves that are fighting inside of you, all right? The bad wolf is going to tell you, you know what? It's never going to happen. You know, how can you possibly do this? The odds, what's going on? Give you all the excuses. It's impossible. It's not worth it. You know what's going to happen. You know what your quality of life is going to be. Okay? Well, you got the good wolf. Belief, confidence, enthusiasm. Everything is possible. It's worth it. Where do those all come from? Come from wrestling. You realize how hard it is to get what you want in wrestling? You don't just walk onto a mat and win a state championship. It doesn't work that way. You have to put in an insane amount of work. Okay? You got to go travel to tournaments 6 hours in one direction for a 6-minute match that you possibly could lose the first match and come back for another 6 hours. Is it worth it? No. You do it anyway. All right? You put in the time, you do everything right. This is your team. That's not your team. And you got to ask yourself, what team are you on? All right? Wrestling is either fight or flight. Either you're going to fight or you're going to go away. So when you're faced with something, you got to decide which one you want. You know what? No other sport is fight or flight. It doesn't work that way. Baseball, I've seen thousands of games. There's nothing baseball is going to teach me about something that dramatic happens to you. Okay, it doesn't work that way. You're involved in the best sport in the world. Okay? It's going to teach you things that you will never understand until something happens to you. And when it does, you're going to realize that it was because of wrestling that got you through it. Okay? It's a part where when something happens, you find out exactly who you are. Okay? Now, if anyone knows Roberto Duran, he was the toughest boxer in the history of boxing. If anyone knows what he's known for, it's giving up. Okay? Now, Sugar Ray Leonard got creamed by Roberto Duran the first time that they fought each other. Sugar Ray Leonard was an Olympic champion. He was one of the best champions around. Okay? But he made a fatal mistake when he fought him the first time. He didn't fight his own style. He went toe-to-toe with Roberto Duran. Okay? He describes it as, when I was going into the ring, I just knew, I felt a sense of destruction. I went into the ring anyway. Okay? He could have turned around. He could have said, not today, I got sick, and not the time. He knew he was going to lose. He talks about it. I knew 100% I was going to get decimated. He did it anyway. Okay? Next rematch comes around. He says, I would rather die than give up. He made Roberto Duran give up. He learned everything he had to learn in order to win, in order to beat the guy who creamed him. Okay? He took every single thing that he did wrong and corrected it. Okay? 40 years later, they do a documentary on why Roberto Duran gave up. Sugar Ray Leonard does not know to this day why he gave up. All right? He made him feel so uncomfortable that his only option was to get out of there. So who would you rather be? They both won a match. Okay? I would rather die than give up on anything. You know, when you wrestle and you accomplish something, and you start out in 6th grade and you say, you know what, I want to win a league title, I want to be an all-county person, you know, and you accomplish that. You know, as you're doing that, you're going to learn that there's something inside of you that's going to be greater than any obstacle that's out there. Once you set your mind to something, you're going to realize, you know what, I did that. I was not the best person. I was nowhere near the best person. You know what? This person quit, this person did drugs, this person wasn't good in school, this person didn't take it seriously. You know what? If you stick the course and you do things right, hard work eventually comes out. All right, so when they bring me take me to the side, and they tell me I have to make a decision on my daughter's quality of life and I need to give up, I just did not want to hear it, and I basically went to my daughter's room, and I basically whispered in her ear. I said, Jess, if you don't start moving right now, I'm going to start checking your bodies for tattoos. And I don't like tattoos, and all of a sudden, her monitor starts increasing. Heartbeat goes up 128, 142, 156, 160. I say to the nurse, do you see that? And she says, yes. I said, what do you think is causing that? She says, I guess she doesn't want you to see her tattoos. Which she was correct. I said, what tattoos? She says, well, on her side, she has a beautiful owl. I've never seen such a beautiful owl. It's very, very nice. You would even like it, which I didn't. And then she says, under her right breast, she has inscribed, every breath is gold. So I say to myself, you know what? Every breath is gold. And if she's at 1% right now, capability, my job as a parent is to get it to 2%, then 4%, then 8%, then 16, 20. Okay, that's my job. Okay, I'm on her team. And every breath is gold. And you got to appreciate every second of every day, no matter what's going on. And you know what? I have a lot of friends in my life that I like to talk to because they like to complain. And I like to listen to them complain because I laugh. And it's very funny to me when halfway through the conversation they look at me and they basically said, I'm complaining to you? I said, that's all right. I like to laugh once in a while. So every second is a gift. Now, when you're in overtime, what's the number one rule? You got to be the first guy back to the circle. You know, at this point where I'm in the hospital at this present time, I'm up for 100 and some odd hours. It's been 3-4 days, okay? It's more than overtime at this period of time, okay? But, you know what goes through my head? You got to be the first guy back to the circle. Why? Because the first guy back to the circle always wins. It's the way it works. If you're in overtime, you're the first guy back to the circle, you're going to win. Okay. Basically says it's been 108 hours since Beja and I have slept, unless you count sitting upright in the chair, closing your eyes for a few minutes, and using the wall as a pillow as sleep. Okay? You do whatever you need to do. You know, in wrestling, that's how it works. You just figure it out. You just do it. All right? Hard work wins. All right? You're going to be tired. When does the wrestling match officially start? The answer is when you're tired. Anyone is good when they're not tired. Okay? It's when you're tired is when the match starts. Okay? Being able to keep fighting when you're physically and mentally exhausted. You ever go to a wrestling match or a practice and you say, I just can't do anymore. I am done. I can't do another push-up. I'm done. That's the point where the match starts. That's how life is. The exact same thing. You're going to do everything you possibly can do for as long as you can possibly do it. And you know what? Okay, that's the first period. Okay? Second period, same thing. You're going to get to the point where you're in overtime, where you just can't even, you go out of bounds, you can't even pick yourself up. But you better be the first guy back to that circle. Okay? Bad things are going to happen. Okay? In wrestling, you need to People in Boston had no idea what was going to happen that day, okay? But when you have an inner fortitude, you do the right things. And wrestling, the right thing is this. This is what they ask from you. They ask you not to drink, not to eat, to work out 2 or 3 times a day, to lose weight, and then perform. Think of that. That's unbelievable. You know of any other sport that you can't drink, you can't eat? You can either lose 5 or 10% of your body weight, and then now they're going to ask you to go out and perform? That's how life is. Because life's going to suck every single ounce of energy out of you. Okay? It's going to be at times where you're not going to be feeling you're not going to feel anything. You're just going to want to crawl up in a ball somewhere and go somewhere else. But you know what? It's overtime. You got to be the first guy back to the circle. Okay? The match never starts until you're tired. You can put the best guy in the county against a mediocre guy in the county. The first period is going to be pretty close. You know what happens though? Somewhere along the line, one of those guys is going to realize that he's not going to win, and he's going to break. And it happens every single match. Your job is to make the other guy realize he's not going to win. Okay? Imagine if you had to stop when you got tired. I know there's this, I know this exists, but imagine you got to stop in wrestling every single time you got tired. It'd be great, right? That'd be awesome. You know, everyone does one of these. You get 2 or 3 of these. You know, I'm not ready yet. Hold on. I need a drink of water. It doesn't work that way. You're going to have an animal attacking you when you're feeling horrible. Okay? That's the exact same thing what's going to happen to you. Okay? So when that ferocious animal is coming at you and he wants to kill you, okay, and you just don't even feel like getting up, you got to be at your best. Okay? You know what gets you there? What gets you there is not saying, I just want to wrestle, I want to make the team. That doesn't get you there. What gets you there is when you say, I want to be the best I can possibly be, ever. Only you know what that is. Okay? You have to have the goal that drives you so much that you're willing. Well, you have to have a goal that drives you so much that you're willing to go through torture in order to get it. If your goal is not that big and you're not willing to go through that, that's not a goal. It's a hobby right now. Wrestling is not a hobby. Life is not going to be a hobby. You've got to be so dedicated to a cause that you say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to do anything in order to achieve that. Okay? Or you can lose close. No shame in that. I lost 3-1 to one of the best kids in the county. You lost. It was 5-2. You know what? Pitcher's a state champ. I went with him. It was 5-1. I couldn't believe it. It was close. You lost. Okay? If you want to lose close, you don't have to work too hard. You just got to back up, not be involved, not take chances. Everyone can lose close. Don't ever take any moral victory in losing close. Either you win or you lost. Don't ever, under any circumstances, say, you know what, it was only 3-1. Nah, it's who scored the more points than the other person. That's how it works. It's 1 point more. That's it. That's it. 1 point more. Now, when you have a big goal, now John F. Kennedy had one of the biggest goals ever. He wanted to send a person to the moon. Now, when you read this just every time I read this just absolutely focuses me, motivates me, and shows me exactly what's necessary in order to achieve something. Just think of what he wanted to do. He wanted to take something on the earth and send it to the moon. He wanted to take something here and send it to the moon. Think of that. And he did. We haven't done it since. You need a big goal in your life. You need to do something every single day that you get up. Something's going to happen. 5 or 6, 7 different things are going to absolutely make you feel like you should just lay in bed again. You know what? If you don't have a big goal, you're not getting out of bed. You've got to have something that drives you. You've got to be willing to march into hell. okay, for a worthy cause. Okay? You've got to be willing. Every single day, you know wrestling is hell. There's nobody here that likes it. All right? I mean, it's hell. Okay? But that's what you like about it. Okay? How much can you take? How much are you willing to put yourself through in order to get what you want? That's what wrestling is. How much are you willing to physically, mentally torture yourself every single day in order to win? That's it. Great sport. Because you become the person you should become. My goal, and what motivated me every single day, and I made a determination at that point, is I wanted both. I wanted to care and cure Jess, and I wanted to live and love life. And one without the other was just unacceptable to me. It's not going to be easy. Nobody ever thinks it's going to be easy. But nothing ever that is easy is worth it. Okay? Only the hard stuff is worth it. Okay? If you happen to go down a path and there's no obstacles in the way, turn around. It's not worth it. You know that it's not going to be what you were looking for. Okay? Wrestling is about getting yourself to the point where you know you gave every ounce of energy, dedication, focus, concentration, and you became the best that you could possibly be. That doesn't mean you had to win a state championship. That means maybe your best was third in the county. Nobody deals with your family life. Nobody knows if your mother and father are getting divorced. Nobody knows if you have a sick family member. Nobody has any idea, maybe you're battling a learning disability in school. Nobody knows that stuff. So somebody else's best may not be your best. You got to do it is your best. So when you have that feeling that you know you cannot be broken, okay? I'm going to tell a little story about not being broken. And when I was in college, my father was probably out of work for a couple of years before I went to college. Money was tight. It was tight. So when I got to college, and then my parents handed me a bag of food, that was my food. There was no meal plan. That was my food. So when I'm in the house, and I wake up the next morning, and my food is eaten, I'm a little disturbed. Okay, but I also weigh 126 pounds, and I made the mistake of asking who ate my food in front of everybody. And of course, it's the guy who weighs 240 pounds. And I said, listen, all you just had to do is ask. He goes, nah, it doesn't work that way. I said, what? He goes, no, it doesn't work that way. I'll eat your food whenever I want to eat your food. I said, you don't eat my food. You don't eat my food, man. And he's made fun of me, turned his back on me, you know, give me a little swat in the head when he walked by, but he made the mistake of turning his back. And as soon as he turned his back, I lowered my shoulder and put it in the small of his back, and he fell face first to the ground. And I knew it was coming. And he got up, and he beat the heck out of me for about 5 minutes until he realized that he thought he got his message across. He got up, turned around. I put my shoulder in the small of his back again, and the process continued. And it happened maybe 3 or 4 times. The 4th time it happened, he hit me with such a headlock that my feet came over my head. It was definitely a 5. And my foot landed on the kitchen table, and I was never in so much pain in my life. I mean, it was like shooting pain. And he put me in a headlock, and you know when you're in a headlock, the only thing you can do is make believe you're dead, and just stay there and make believe you're dead. So I did that until he got up, and until I felt him stop a little bit. And as soon as he stopped, I re-rolled him and put him on his back. And now in front of about 10 other people, a 120-pounder guy is putting this 220-pound guy on his back. And it lasted for about 5 seconds, and I had the advantage. And then the process continued. He came up and beat the heck out of me. And he just looked at me. Like after 10 minutes, he just looked at me and said, listen, when are you going to realize I'm going to eat your food? I said, you're not going to eat my food. I don't care what you're going to do, you're not going to eat my food. And he got up, he said, listen, It's not worth it, man. Listen, I ate it already. I said, listen, I don't care if you ate it already, but you're never going to eat my food again. And my point is, he realized he wasn't going to break me. No matter what happened, I wasn't stopping. I didn't care about the consequence. It wasn't about that. It was about the inner feeling that you have, that knowing that you're not going to be broken. You're not going to have somebody just walk all over you. Okay? So my point is, the reward that I got from that wasn't from him. It was actually from the 10 other people who were watching this at the time. And you just get a little different respect, a little different, people treat you a little bit different when you stand up for what you believe in. Okay, you're starting your season. You are looking at everything. Everyone's telling you during the season. Nobody's giving you respect. You're reading the forums, right? Nobody mentions your name, okay? You listen, what happened to me? I did well. What's going on? Everyone's talking about this guy. Everyone's talking about that guy. How come nobody's mentioning my name? I should be in the thick of things. Only thing I can tell you is this. It's very simple. You got to ignore the noise. It's all noise, okay? When this comes out, we all know what this is, right? All right? Are you going to sit there and believe somebody else's opinion of you? Come on. Is that what it's about? Because one guy puts one guy ahead of another guy, he's better than him? If that's the case, let me know, because we don't even need the rest of the season. Okay? Let me know. I've never seen a ranking that was 100% accurate. I haven't seen a ranking that's been 50% accurate. But my point is this. It's what you believe. Okay? If you're going to believe, this was a long time ago, we had rankings when I wrestled. They were made by a guy who wore Coke bottle glasses and never spoke to a person at all. And he made the rankings. And when I found that out, I was like, you got to be kidding me. These are what the rankings are? This is what everything is supposed to be? I'm not dealing with that. So if you're not on this board, that's good. If you're number 1 on this board, that's bad. You won already. You don't need to wrestle. But my point is, you don't believe any of this stuff. Okay? So my point is, when somebody's telling me that I have no shot, I don't believe you. So it's what I believe that matters. It's not what you believe. So if I want to take a shot and I'm willing to do the work and I'm willing to do put my dedication and put the time in and try to make things better, then you know what? That's what I'm going to do. If you're telling me I have 0% shot, I don't believe you. Okay? The fulfillment of your dreams lies within you alone. And when you understand this, that's when you will get greatness. Okay? You alone. Nobody needs to tell you you're good. If you believe it, if you want it, and you're willing to work for it, and you know, I'm not telling you about something that you know there's no work involved. I'm telling you if you're willing to do the work. If you're willing to go every single day to practice, not only to go to practice, but maybe to go lift afterwards, or run afterwards, or basically change your diet, or not go out on a Friday night, or miss the party, or do whatever you need to do, and you're willing to do that, nothing else matters what anybody else says. Hard work wins. It takes time. It doesn't happen right away, but it wins. So if I'm willing to do the work, and I accept the responsibility of what's involved, I don't need somebody telling me that I have 0% chance. Because there's always 3 choices. Everyone says there's always heads or tails. Nobody ever thinks that's a choice. So when I had to make this decision of what I was going to do with my daughter's situation, I realized there was one thing that I was not going to do. And I've seen it happen to so many people who've lost a child or lost a loved one. And what they do is they die. But they're alive. They just stop living. They're just dead inside. I wasn't going to do that. There was no way possible I was going to have a life and not live it. Just no way possible. So when they said like I had to choose between Jess and my other kids, the option I chose was both. Okay? And the way I did that is I started to build a team of believers. And it sounds like a crazy thing, When I was a baseball coach, the only criteria that I wanted from a person is whether they believe. And to make a point, I had a very athletic person try out for our team. He made our team, but he was in the batting cage and he missed 100 balls in a row. And he'll tell you this to this day, and he's a very, very good athlete. He's one of the best kids we ever had on the team. 100 pitches in a row. Not exaggerated. Every single pitch he missed. He walked out, put his bat away, thought he was not going to be on the team. And I looked him in the eye, and I said, do you believe you can do better than that? Yes. Do you believe you can help this team? Yes. Do you believe that you're going to become a better baseball player and you're going to commit yourself? Yes. He made the team. Became one of the best players ever. Was a D1 football quarterback for football for Brown. Okay? And my point is, you start building, you don't hang around with people who don't believe. You hang around with people who do believe. Okay? So the first thing that I did when I had this situation where I was affected by it, I spent about a week in the hospital. But then I got out of the hospital, I said, you know what? I need to continue wrestling. I don't know why. I need to be around wrestling. So when my wife was in the hospital and I was outside the hospital, I kept my private lessons that we had before this happened. And they were Mike Petrovich. And when we got to the lessons, he basically saw something was wrong. I explained to him exactly what happened. And I said, you know, I'm feeling really guilty for being here. I feel I should be over at the hospital. And he says, you know what? I know exactly how you feel. When Tom Ryan was my coach at Hofstra, his 5-year-old son Teague died in his arms. He says, he was my coach at the time when it happened. He goes, he needed to be around wrestling also. He goes, I know exactly what you feel. Don't feel guilty about it. Okay? Now, I said, what do you mean Tom Ryan? I said, Tom Ryan, the coach of Ohio State? He goes, yeah. I said, there's no way possible that happened, because when I saw Tom Ryan 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago, he was in our room. He was one of the most dynamic persons I ever saw in my life. He was giving a clinic to kindergarten kids, and he had these kids like they were ready to kill each other. It was just amazing the motivation he had, the belief he had. It was just, there was no way possible that person just lost a son. There was no way possible. But he did. And he said, and it was because of wrestling the way he got through it. And he says, I need you to go online, I need you to go watch his video. And I went online and I watched the video, and I just heard the most dynamic person in the world. I don't know Tom, I know him, I've met him a couple of times, but I'm not a friend of his where I can, we've met. I can just tell you, he's the most dynamic person I ever met in my life. Now, one of the things he says and he talks about, and he talks very well about, is despair and how he got through despair. And he basically says, it doesn't go away. He says, but the way you deal with it is the most important thing. He says, he lost his son, and every single day it's there. He says, but you have to have something to believe in, you have to have something to go on. So I got to the point where I started watching all his videos, started watching everything about him. You know what? And I just started accumulating people in my life, nurses and doctors, who believed in the recovery of my daughter. And my point is, when you're in wrestling, if you don't have belief, you're done. If you don't believe in yourself, you're done. So the same exact thing happens in life. So I got to the point where a week goes by, and the doctors are telling me that there is no brain activity whatsoever. And I say, you know what, I'm starting to see a little bit of movements in their arms and their legs. And they say, you know what, parents see what they want to see. There's no movements, it's reflexive. So, you know what? I started to say to myself, you know, I gotta prove to them that it's not reflexive, that there is movements, and maybe we'll start accumulating people who do believe, and my job is to accumulate those people who believe. So I got to the point one night, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, my daughter's in the hospital bed, and I just say to her, listen, I need you to do something in order to show me that you're there, and that I can explain to the doctors that you're there so you get better treatment. Now, her legs were apart about this much. And I just said, you know what we're going to do is we're going to focus on bringing your 2 toes together, your 2 big toes. And you know what? They can't tell me that that's reflexive and that didn't happen because it's about 2 feet apart. So I was coaching her, and about 30 minutes, it starts to get to here. 45 minutes, an hour and 45 minutes. And at this point, I'm yelling and screaming, I'm ecstatic as anything. And the nurse comes in and says, listen, you gotta quiet down. There's other people in this hospital that you're waking up. And I looked at her and I said, listen, nurse, do you understand what's just happening right here? Because listen, if you don't quiet down, I'm gonna ask you to leave. I said, okay, sure, okay. And then hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, and they got to right here. And you can see both of her toes. You can see both of her toes get and touch. Then I knew. They say a brain injury is like an avalanche in your head. So my job now is to clear that avalanche. Start moving little rocks every single day. Move a little piece. Move a little piece today, another piece tomorrow. And you know what? I know she's there. Okay? My point is, this is the creed from the Olympics. Basically says, amazing awaits. When you work hard enough, want badly enough, and refuse to say I've had enough, amazing awaits. That's wrestling. That's the wrestling creed. Okay? You can do anything, you can accomplish anything that you want as long as you work hard enough, you want it badly enough, and you don't give up. Okay? It's funny because after about another week or so, I realized, I said, you know what, I got this feeling that I need to do more. I need to be able to help her more. I got sick, I had a cold in my chest, I wasn't able to go to the hospital, I had to stay away, and I just had this feeling that I had to do something. And the funny part is that when I was alone, the only thing that was going through my head at this point was, there is an open circle. There is an open circle. And I couldn't believe it. When I was in high school, and we had practice, and I wanted to be the state champion, the second I got tired, or moved to the side, or went on the sideline when we had rotations, my coach would just look at me and say, there is an open circle, which means get off your butt. You can work harder. It's up to you. It's available to do it. You can do it. There is an open circle. So anytime that you feel sorry for yourself, anytime you basically think you're tired, you can't do anymore, there's an open circle. You can get out there. You can do it. I don't care if it's a little crowded out in that room. Find the room. Okay? Like in anything else, in wrestling, you can feel sorry for yourself, or you can work. Here we are. We made it to the semifinals of a major tournament. Right? Major tournament semifinals. Everyone's been there, right? You win, you go to the finals. You lose, what happens? One of two things can happen. You could really feel sorry for yourself, feel bad, pout, say, you know what, I can't believe all this work I did, not get ready for your next match, think about the past, and what happens? Fall all the way back down. You lose your next match, lose the match after that, you were 1 point away from maybe making the finals, now you're nowhere near a being place. It happens to everyone. until you go through that, you realize how fast you recover means a lot. Now, what if you have a heartbreaking loss in the semifinals? You got about 30 minutes to recover. You recover, you win your next match, you take third. You know what third is? Third is the hardest thing in the world to take in wrestling. It means you had a major loss and you recovered enough in order to win. Taking third is a major accomplishment. When things go right, the easiest thing to do in the world is to take first. That means everything went right. Life doesn't work that way. Okay? Something's going to go wrong. And when something goes wrong, you can pout. You can not be ready. And you're going to go right down to 7th, 8th, 9th, or whatever. Doesn't mean you were the 9th best kid in the weight class. You're probably the first. It just means you weren't mentally ready. Wrestling teaches you to recover quickly. So when something happens to you, something else is another wave is coming. Okay, you can sit there and get hit by that wave, or you can ride it. All right, it's up to you. When you are closer to victory than you ever know when you feel that you just can't go on any longer. Okay? What makes champions is the ability to muster up a little bit more when everyone else would give in. When everyone else doesn't want to do that extra run. When everyone else doesn't want to go to that extra workout. Okay? That's fine. They're not going to be champions. Okay? What makes you different, what makes you special, what makes you a champion is when you say, you know what? I can't go on anymore, but I'm going to. Another thing wrestling teaches you, it teaches you about again. Okay? Because as soon as you become really, really dedicated to the sport, and you do everything right, and you dedicate a whole season to get to a point where you want to be, I'm talking about practicing 5 days a week, I'm talking about eating right, I'm talking about working out with weights, I'm talking about giving up and sacrificing going places. I'm not being, with your friends when you want to be. And you get to that tournament, and you say, you know what, my goal is to be a national champion, okay? And you put everything you possibly can into that, and it takes about a year or 2 year period of time, and you get there, and you're 1 point away, and you lose, and you're just crushed. All right, you know the feeling when you just work so hard and you get there, and it just crushes you. Okay? I'll tell you a story about Mav. He did that in his 10th grade. He started to get good in his 10th grade. He dedicated himself for a year, 2 years, probably 3 years. Gave up baseball. Gave up everything in his life that he needed to. He gets to the semifinals. Excuse me. He gets to the semifinals of the NHSCA. Quarterfinals of the NHSCA. Okay? He has a 1 point loss. He wins the next match as an All-American. His goal was to be an All-American that year. 1 point. 1 point. He gets the whole season, gets to his point, does everything perfect, gets to his match, gets to where he needs to be, sees his goal in sight in one of the hardest tournaments in the country. 1 point. He comes to me after spending a little time right there, hands me his shoes. And everyone in the wrestling knows what that means. It means I'm done. I'm not doing this. It's not worth it. Okay? And I hand them back to him, and I said, do it again. You got to do it again. I'm not doing it again. I'm not doing everything right and doing it again. It's not worth it. Well, when it is worth it to you, let me know. We'll do it again. So the next year, he decides to do it again. And same exact thing, works harder. Another year goes by, does everything right. Gets to the national tournament, goes to the seeding of the national tournament, the brackets, and does one of these. And by the time he gets down to the bottom, he gets a really bad feeling in his stomach. Because by the time he got down to the bottom, he realized his first match was against the 4-time national champion. Now, the tournament has not started, and he's on mat 1. Nobody else is wrestling. 6 minutes goes by, he loses by 2 points. Whole season. Up to that point, tournament hasn't started, he's out. Again, he's in that position, walks up to me. He goes, I'm really done this time. I'm done. I said, you got to do it again. He goes, I'm not doing it again. All right? I said, when you want to do it again, you want to put the time in, let me know. Get to the point where he wants to put the time in, next year he wins the state championship. Okay? That state championship would never have happened unless he did it again. Okay? That's wrestling. That's how life is. You will never score points on a great wrestler by taking one shot. True? You will never score a point by taking one shot. The only way you're going to score points is by taking 10 shots and putting 10 moves together. That's exactly how wrestling is. You will never, ever. I would rather have somebody shoot one shot on me 10,000 times, because I can stop that, rather than a guy who shoots 10 shots on me once. I can't stop that. There's no way possible. So you've got to build enough energy in order to be that person, in order to go out there and keep doing it. Perseverance is the hard work you do after you're tired of doing the hard work you already did. Everyone can get to the point where you're tired. It's that work you do after you're tired. Hard work wins. Okay? What do you do when you feel like you can't go any further? You just keep moving forward. What does that mean? It just means just do the next right thing. Repeat it indefinitely. That's what you do. You know, everyone wants an easy life. That's not going to happen. What you want is the ability to endure a difficult life. What do you do when something happens in your life? You need to take massive and immediate action. Okay? You need to blast double life. I mean, that's what you got to do. You got to blast double life. Okay? You got to knock life off its feet. All right? That's what you do. You know, you get more and more confidence in life as things go on by doing things, not by being people that you knew you can be. You get confidence by being people that you knew you couldn't be. That's how you get confidence. Okay? And how do you do that? You don't sit there in a match and just wait for things to happen. You've got to impose your will on the other person. You've got to make what you want happen. Okay? Well, while this was going on with my daughter, I had a few other things that were going on. My best friend's wife came to visit my daughter one day. Was complaining of a headache. Went home, had a brain aneurysm, and died. My wife's best friend, my best friend. She was bedside to my daughter, and then I find myself at her bedside. She is in the exact same situation as my daughter, attached to a life support system. That's happening at the same time. A month later, my father passed away. So you get to the point of saying to yourself, what do you do? Well, you just have that feeling that you know you're never going to be broken when you're a wrestler. And when you get that feeling, you know you can deal with anything. You're just going to deal with it, and you know you're never going to be broken. Okay? That's what I came to every single day when I came home from the hospital. Me and my wife took turns at the hospital. This is my mailbox. All right? That's my mailbox. So when I went out and people say, how you doing? They had no idea what was going on. I'd always sound fine. Talk about a teammate. I didn't put this in my book. It was probably one of the biggest things I wanted to put in my book. You never realize how you can impact somebody else's life by just helping them and being a good teammate or a good friend. Pick a person up when they're down. Do something for somebody when you had no reason to, other than the fact that you're being nice to the person. One of my teammates in wrestling, or Travis's teammate in wrestling, I hardly knew. But he saw what I was going through. We were at a wrestling match one day, and I was complaining the fact that I got a phone call and my ceiling, there's water just dripping down from my ceiling like a waterfall. Dealt with that. I'm in the hospital one day, he's calling me, and then I took another phone call, and AJ was on the other line, and the hot water heater and the oil burner absolutely shut down and broke. Not shut down, we could repair, shut down and broke. This is at the time everything else is happening. I happened to mention this to him when I'm on the phone with him. 2 days later, there's a oil burner being delivered to my house. 3 people putting it in. It was probably one of the biggest lifts that I got. All I had to do was pay for the cost. The factory donated it. Okay? He didn't need to do that. He didn't know me as well as he does now. But that's a teammate. Okay? That's somebody who does something for somebody who's going to make their life better. Every person on your team, you have opportunity to do that. You know, there's a lot of big thing about bullying. Just make your teammate better. Simple as that. Help them. Everyone's going through something. You know, imagine if you're going through something, somebody helps you. It's a big, good feeling. Wrestling is not an individual sport. I thought I would never say that in my life. Wrestling is a team sport. Okay? Who is your teammates? Who is your team? Your team consists of your parents, your family, your coaches, your workout partners, and your supporters. That's your team. Without any one of those people, you do not win. Without any one of those people, you do not win. Appreciate them. Let them know that. Thank them. When your hand gets raised, their hand gets raised. The greatest team that you will ever be part of is going to be your family. Okay? I'm going to go into a little of my baseball mode right now because baseball is more of a team sport than wrestling. But we used to have some mottos that we went through. We win as a team, we lose as a team. Your family is your team. Okay? Your wrestling partners are your team. Okay? You win together, you lose together. Okay? You make your teammates better. The best person on a team has to be the person who's able to make somebody else better. If the person that's on your team, the best person on your team, makes everyone else worse, you know that person. Only cares about themselves, you know, doesn't really, who puts another person down, does anything he possibly can to make sure he looks good. Okay? That's not the best person on the team. You got to get rid of that guy. You want the guy, doesn't even have to be near the best. He just makes everybody else better. And I say this very negatively, but Alex Rodriguez, when he was in Seattle, they won 86 games. Next year, 126. I mean, he didn't make people better. That was the real flaw of him. Okay? Jeter makes people better. That's a difference between guys. That's a difference between teammates. Okay? You make your teammates better. You don't blame. Something happens somewhere along the line, don't blame. It doesn't hurt anything. You know, a family goes through a tragedy. You can sit there and you can be blamed, put around everywhere. You don't do that. All right? You make your teammates better. Talking about hard work. All right, water boils at 212 degrees. Every degree is needed. There's going to be a time when you're putting in so much hard work, you're going to say to yourself, how come this water is not boiling? You don't know if you're 1 degree away. All right? Don't stop. All right? You're putting in the days, you're putting in the weeks, you're putting in the time, you're putting in everything you possibly can do, and it's not happening for you, just keep working. You tell me who you want to be. I love Sam Spino, and all respect to Sam, he made Maverick better this year, okay? But that's 1 point. That's a state final. That's 1 point. You work for 6 years for 1 point. That's the reason every single day you go to practice. You have no idea where that one point's coming from. You don't know when it's happening. You don't know if it's going to be when you're not feeling well, you don't want to go to practice. You know what, I'm going to fool around today, I'm not concentrating. You don't know what that move is. There's going to be a move in your career that's going to matter for that one point. I guarantee it. I know what my move was. Standing Granby. Landed on my neck. It doesn't work that way, but you know, there's one point. Your whole career is going to come down to one point. That's what you work for. All right? Just do the work. That's all you concentrate on. Just do the work, go home, do it again. Do the work. You know what? There's no way possible you're going to become successful by yourself. I guarantee you, you look at any successful wrestler, there's a wrestling partner with him that became better because of them. Nick and Trav have been working together for 5 years. I guarantee you Travis is not who he is today because if he didn't work out with Nick. I would like to say Nick's not half of who he is if he didn't work out with Travis. Okay? You make each other better. 4 years ago, they could have said, you know what? We're not working out. I'm going to see you in the county final somewhere. Why would I want to work out with you? The reason is because iron sharpens iron. Okay? You hang out with good people, you become better. You have good wrestling partners, you become better. Okay? People are the most important part in your wrestling. I don't know what to say. I just put that in. I should have probably not put it in, but I put it in. And my point was trying to talk about is, you know what? It needs to mean something to you. Okay? It needs to mean something to you. Okay? You've got to be proud about your accomplishments. And I'm not doing this, you know, he probably is going to be very mad, but when you know what? You've got to be proud. Even if it's in your own space. You worked hard. You know? The other thing is this, you can't live on your laurels. Your memories can't be greater than your dreams. If you accomplish something, you're going to rest on that. You know what? There's so much more you need to do. You know what? So if you're a county champ or state champ, you need time to be a national champ. Maybe college national, NCAA champ. Always keep moving. Always strive. Okay? Now you can't see this, but the point of it is, it's what you do when no one is watching that matters the most. This is, I was up about 2 o'clock in the morning one night, and I saw the light on in my basement, and I saw my 18-year-old kid on a computer. So the first thing a parent would think of, what is this kid doing? You know? So I walk down, and I see this green light. And immediately I know what green means. If any wrestler ever watches Flow, you know what the green is. Right? 2 o'clock in the morning, watching video. Okay? Nobody's watching. Okay? It's got to be in you. You've got to drive. You've got to want it. Okay? You know what? You've got to do whatever it takes. If you chase 2 rabbits, both will escape. There's no way possible you can be an athlete and not live an athletic lifestyle. It doesn't go together. If you're doing it, stop. If you know somebody doing it, stop. You can't possibly run in 2 different directions at the same time. All right? Your body has to work properly. You can't be putting things into your body that make them going to opposite directions. I don't care if it's off season, I don't care when it is. If you're chasing 2 things and they're in conflict, you're going to get neither one of them. Wrestling teaches you to appreciate water. Now what I mean by that is this. When you're cutting weight, what's the only thing you want? You just want water, right? Water is the most basic thing out there. So when you go through something, when you're a wrestler, you appreciate water. You're gonna wake up every single day and appreciate water. Okay? That's what a wrestler is. Okay? I can have anything. All I want to do right now is I just want to get down to the lowest common denominator, and I just want to enjoy every second of every day. That's like breathing. That's water. And when you're a wrestler, you can have anything you want. You just want water. And when you get to that part of appreciation, in life, the same exact way, you appreciate things. You appreciate water. People think you're crazy. And, you realize when you don't have it, that's what you want. There's a few things I go through, and I'll probably end very quickly, is, there's going to be a part in life where, in wrestling, when you got to win the scramble. There's going to be a situation where it looks like the other guy got it. You got to just put that leg over your head, get height, pull it over your head, come out the back door, and people just look at you and say, how do you do that? All right? You got to do that. All right? Always look to improve your position in wrestling, right? Every single day, the same exact situation. You have to give thanks every single day. There's no such thing as Thanksgiving. That's one day. Give thanks every day. That's when you're living the right way. Well, other than the grammatical errors, and we are trying, as we increase his SATs after this, he says in 10th grade, he again lost in the first match of his county tournament. And he wrote on paper, he says, I will be an all-county wrestler in my high school career. My point is, he underestimated himself. Same exact thing with you. If you're not shooting for county title, league title, county title, state title, you have no idea what you can accomplish. All right? When your opponent is bigger than you still got to find a way to win. You know when you're facing somebody that's better than you. You know it. Nobody has to tell you. Nobody has to tell you that the guy is a 3-time state champion, or he's actually just teched everybody he's wrestled this year, and you got to go face him. You got to find a way to win. That's the way life is. You're going to come up with something in your life that's so much bigger than you. You know on every level they got you beat. You got to win anyway, and everyone's beatable. In this whole wrestling and sports, I always thought it was about winning. And I always, you always want to win, you always want to put it out there, but it's becoming the best you could possibly be. Max Askren basically said it. Let me see if I can find it. No. He basically says, let's see. A champion is not someone who won his last match of the season. A champion is a person who gave his will and attempted to do so. Okay? How many people get their hand raised in their last match of the season? It's a trick question. It's not one, but I want to say one, but it's not, because it's third and fifth. In place is 3, but it's 1. It's there's only one guy who gets his hand raised at the end of the year. One. Out of thousands of people who wrestle. So why do you wrestle? What is it about? If only one guy can win and there's a couple of thousand kids trying to do that, why wrestle? Because it's not about that. It's not about being the last guy to get your hand raised. Okay? That's somebody's best. That's somebody's best out there. It's absolutely somebody's best. Your hand may be raised in a different way. My hand was raised in a different way. My hand was raised by becoming a wrestler. When somebody asks me, did I wrestle? My answer to them is no, I'm a wrestler. There's a big difference. When you wrestle, you wrestle. When wrestling makes you a wrestler, that's when you got your hand raised. You don't need to stand on a podium for that. Okay? You don't need to stand on a podium for that. Your hand can be raised in many, many different ways. Every single day, we're still fighting and battling with my daughter, and there are days it's very, very difficult. But you know what? Wrestling has made me know and realize that it's a good feeling that I can never be broken. Okay? That came from wrestling. Okay? The possibility, not the guarantee, of moving forward and getting her better is what drives me. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. But you know what? Way back when this happened, I had a choice to make. one or the other, you know what? If I would have just chose her, 3 of my other kids would never have the life that they had. I would have a beautiful daughter every single day, the most optimistic, aspiring person in the world, who is one of the best people I've ever met. I wouldn't have 2 kids who kept going in wrestling and got offers to wrestle in college. Okay? My point to you is, when something bad happens to you, staying on a podium is not what's going to make you a person. Okay? That's great. I wish I stood on a podium. What's going to make you a person in life is by being a wrestler. And everyone can do that. And that's it. Like I said, if anyone has any questions, I'm willing to talk about anything if you want. If not, like I said, I just want to talk about a couple people. You know, one thing I didn't talk about, when something happens in your life, you kind of join a club. And that club is the Life-Changing Events Club. And it makes you look at life differently in a different perspective. And when you join that club, it's the one thing that you never wanted in your life, but it's the one thing that you would never give up in your life, because it teaches you everything that you need to know. And in order to join the club, it is the only payment is hurt beyond belief, okay? And you get a lifetime membership. Unfortunately, that hurt never goes away. But your reward is you get to a different perspective on life. And there are a lot of people in this room that I know are part of that club. And I appreciate you guys being here tonight. And it makes me feel very special to see you guys here. And you know, it's a club, like I said, that you never want to be part of, but you know how special it is to be part of that club and how dynamic there are as far as individuals who are part of that club who do so much. There are a lot of people in this room that fall in that category. You have a few on your team, and I'm going to point out one in particular, Lisa Curran, and you have somebody special in your organization, and what she does, and the way she lives life, and the way she helps other people live life. Take advantage of that. You have somebody special in your organization, in your team, and you guys should be very, very proud, because I'm very proud that she offered me to come here today. And the more I know of her, the more I talk with her every single day, it makes my life better. So I just wanted to at least thank you. All right. Any questions?
How's your daughter today?
My daughter today is, we got to the point where I'd say we brought her home, and they wanted us to put her into a nursing home, but we brought her home, and we take care of her at home. And my wife is a very special person. She is she's giving up everything in her life in order to get her daughter better. Everything she could possibly do. And it's not for the guarantee, it's for the possibility. And I know every parent here would do the same. But when the odds are brought down to 1%, there'd be a lot of parents who would fall off. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. All I know is that she's still there, and my daughter is 1,000% better. And there's one thing that I know my daughter feels the love, and to me, that's the most important part. She's physically unable to communicate, and she does not move much at this time. But about a year ago, we got to a plateau where she wasn't improving as much, and we were watching TV, and we have a bed that we bring into the living room with us, and her leg just went up in the air. And she did it again. And she continued to do it for the next 2 or 3 days. And her leg it just was amazing. It just went up in the air. And she never moved a tremendous amount, more than, maybe here to here, but her leg actually went up so high that I didn't know how it could possibly be that high. And then she would get hit with a wave of pneumonia, knock her out, and she would go through 6 weeks, 7 weeks of just not being there, just fighting an infection. And then the infection would go away, and her leg would go up. And then pneumonia would come, and another 6 weeks. So we go through, again, every single 6 weeks or so. And how she is my belief is that there was a movie that was made back in the late 80s, and it was called Awakenings. And it was about a doctor who believed that comatose patients were alive inside. And nobody else believed it until he gave them L-Dopa, which is a drug, and they actually woke up. And they actually physically woke up and moved around. And so there are things that I believe. I believe that she knows and sees everything, feels everything. She's just locked in. She just can't communicate. And the best way of describing it is, if you're putting together or putting your Christmas tree up, and you know that one light bulb goes out, you just know everything else goes out. Or you have a printer, and you don't have the right driver to the printer, and you just keep hitting send, and it just gets loaded up. There's not a connection. There's one connection that's missing. My belief is, when we find that one connection, the driver will clear, the printer will come out, we'll print the pages, we'll find on the light bulb, all the lights will go on. That's what I believe. So we constantly look for that one thing or two things that make that happen. As far as bringing her home, it's when your house becomes a hospital, it becomes very difficult on your other children. And half your battle is everyone deals with it differently. Some people don't talk for 2 or 3 years. Some people don't want to bring anyone home to the house anymore. Some people are fine. Everything's different, but my point is that there's one improvement followed by 2 negatives, followed by 3 improvements, followed by 4 negatives, and it's just a constant battle. In regard to how she is, I believe music is a major medicine, and we try to play music for her constantly, and I see a reaction to music, and I see a reaction to different stimuluses that I do know that she's there. It's just a matter of, like I said, getting her to the point of being able to vocalize. We have a physical therapist, a speech therapist every day. It's hard. It's really hard. But my point is with her that I'm not going to give up, and I will do whatever I need to do. And there's no way possible I would say that or be able to do that if I didn't wrestle. And it sounds so cliche, like I'm talking to a wrestling crowd about wrestling, but it's so true. And it's absolutely, without a doubt, if I did not wrestle, I guarantee you, fight wouldn't be in my blood. I would have put a little L into fight, and I would have been gone. It's probably reality. But when you're bred not to give up, and and I said it before, what does not give up mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? Don't give up? Yeah, okay, everyone gives up at a certain point. What is that point? No, there is no point. Never. It's never. Okay? It's not when you had pneumonia for the 7th time, or there's a million things that could possibly go wrong. I dread. We've been in the hospital virtually for 6 months straight. Me and my wife was actually with her at all times, and one of us was there. We've had a recent situation where she's probably going to have to go back in the hospital. It just, and it's just the word again. And, you get to the point where you just say, you just want to hair my shoes. But you just say, no, again, do it again. So, she is right now, if anybody else would view her when she started and the way she is right now, there's dramatic improvement. But if you saw her right now, you would never know that. But the improvement that I've seen from virtually not having anything behind your eyes and just looking like you're not there, to now know and actually be able to cry at certain situations, or smile, or just give a glimpse of your personality somewhere along the line, she's there. So, it's a constant battle every day. My goal is to just win the day, and is to get her better each day. And so that's the goal. Any other questions? Come on, Anthony, I know you have one. No? Let's see who else. Anything? All right. It was a pleasure. I appreciate it. I know I'm probably a little bit dramatic, and it's probably a topic that's not the most inspiring when you have your practice tomorrow, the first practice. But my point to you is this: you're involved in the best sports in the world, and it's not about standing on the podium. It's not only about standing on the podium. There's a lot more to it. Thank you.
For coming tonight. Great speech. Appreciate it. Enjoyed this.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You got it. Thanks.